India has deployed 3 naval warships to the Philippines, marking a significant show of support for Manila as tensions with Beijing continue in the South China Sea. The Indian Navy vessels, INS Mysore, a guided missile destroyer, an anti-submarine warfare corvette, INS Shakti, a fleet tanker, are currently docked in Manila. They will participate in a joint patrol with the Philippine Navy from August 4 to 8, including in areas contested by China and the Philippines. Notably, this joint maritime drill coincides with the Philippine president's official visit to India, where he is scheduled to meet Prime Minister Modi, the president and other leaders, underscoring the strengthening defense ties between the two sides. Recently, the INS Mysore has been armed with the BrahMos supersonic cruise missile, which has a range of up to 800 kilometers, enhancing India's growing strategic capabilities. Analysts see this coordinated patrol as part of India's ongoing operational deployment across Southeast Asia, signaling a united front with Manila amid the rising South China Sea tensions. At the Manila port arrival ceremony, Rear Admiral Sushil Menon of the Indian Navy's Eastern Fleet thanked the Philippine government for its welcome and showcased the Navy's surveillance aircraft, which can distinguish the military from civilian ships, emphasizing their commitment to regional security and cooperation. In fact, during their drill, Indian and Philippine naval personnel will be taking part in joint professional exchanges aimed at strengthening interoperability and fostering closer ties between the two navies. Shifting focus for now, the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has issued a dire warning. This time it's not about war, but about a scarce resource. He is warning that Tehran could soon run out of water. Pezeshkian has warned that dams supplying water to the capital could soon run dry unless water consumption was curbed. And according to Pezeshkian, water reserves may be depleted to a state of emptiness by October, when schools reopen and demand typically rises. Iranian news agency claiming that water reservoirs serving Tehran are at just 20% capacity, while nationally the average reservoir level stands at 44%. According to the Tehran Provincial Water Supply Company, levels in the reservoirs supplying the city have fallen to their lowest in a century. While no formal water rationing has actually been announced, electricity is being cut for at least 2 hours daily in neighborhoods across the country. Iran is experiencing one of its worst droughts on record and its 5th consecutive year of drought. The country is also being seared by a brutal heat wave. And the US dollar, by the way, is heading for its strongest weekly gain in nearly 3 years, driven by a mix of tariff shocks and policy divergence. President Trump's sweeping new tariffs on dozens of countries jolted markets, triggering sharp moves in currencies. The yen slid to its weakest since March after the Bank of Japan signaled no urgency in hiking rates. Japan's finance ministry has said it is alarmed by the slide. The Canadian dollar to its lowest since May after Canada faced a steeper than expected 35% tariff. Now, these moves basically reflect the growing strain on global currencies from Washington's aggressive trade strategy. The euro remains pinned near a 2-month low, weighed down by a controversial EU-US trade deal finalized last week. The markets view the impact as skewed in favor of Washington, with French and German leaders voicing criticism. Analysts are saying the deal acts as a fresh headwind for the euro, which touched its weakest level since June 10. In Asia, the Philippine peso slumped to a 6-month low, while Taiwan's dollar hit levels last seen in early June. The South Korean won also weakened, dragged down by its late-stage tariff deal. Despite Trump's fresh attack on the Fed chair, in fact, calling him a mistake, the US dollar held firm. The Federal Reserve left rates unchanged, citing somewhat elevated inflation and a solid labor market, brushing off political pressure. And all eyes now are turning to the upcoming US payroll data. Strategists suggest the US economy may be operating above potential, supporting higher bond yields and continued dollar strength. For now, markets are pricing in a combination of geopolitical risk, central bank divergence, and resilient US data, all reinforcing the dollar dominance. In a world where poachers wield bullets and greed, science is now arming rhinos with radiation. A daring project in South Africa is turning rhino horns slightly radioactive. The aim is to save the species from extinction. This is our ground report from South Africa.
Poachers have hunted rhinos to the brink, all for a horn worth more than gold, fetching up to $400,000 per kg in illicit markets, mostly in countries like China, where it's wrongly believed to cure everything from cancer to hangovers. But South Africa is rewriting this brutal script. Conservationists are embedding radioactive isotopes into rhino horns, making them traceable, dangerous to smuggle and worthless to traffickers.
The situation is, in South Africa, if you're caught in possession of radioactive material, it's defined as a crime against the state. So theoretically, it can open up the possibility of a person being charged with that sort of offence as well as wildlife trafficking offences. So you're just kind of ramping up the reward-risk ratio in the favour of us.
The Isotope project, led by the University of Witwatersrand, represents conservation's nuclear gambit. Scientists inject tiny amounts of radioactive material directly into rhino horns, a procedure that doesn't harm the animals but transforms their horns into glowing beacons detectable by nuclear security scanners at airports, borders, and shipping ports worldwide.
Actually costs much less in terms of veterinary costs and drugs, and then because you only need to treat every 5 years, it ultimately saves money for the rhino owners because they're so brave looking after these animals and continuing to be their custodians and reserves, etc. So we're trying to help and just up the ante a bit in the anti-poaching game.
At the beginning of the 20th century, 500,000 rhinos roamed Africa and Asia. By 1970, rhino numbers dropped to 70,000. Today, 16,000 rhinos remaining globally. In 2024, 420 rhinos were killed in South Africa. Each death brings the species closer to extinction. Now, this novel method to save rhinos using nuclear tech offers a lot of promise. Critics question the ethics of altering wild animals, but supporters argue desperate times demand radical solutions. The isotopes pose no health risks to rhinos. The same radioactive materials are used safely in medical procedures.
6 years of intensive research and testing, Wits University has announced the Isotope project has officially reached operational status, where rhinos will effectively be protected through nuclear technology. The latest anti-poaching campaign injects rhino horns with radioactive isotopes that are harmless to rhinos but lights up airport radiation detectors. Scientists say the tests also confirmed that individual horns could be detected inside full 40-foot shipping containers, creating a powerful deterrent for traffickers. However, this announcement has been met with mixed reactions. While some say this is a fantastic step towards wildlife conservation, others have questioned about the real safety of the animals' health. Private and public rhino owners and conservation authorities have been urged to approach the university to have their rhinos injected. This is Kaldan Olmo from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.